To complete the most significant news for this day, Y News continues, and here are the top stories. The whole province of Isabela is starting to feel the intense rains and strong winds brought about by Typhoon Rosita. The typhoon is expected to make landfall early Tuesday morning over Isabela, Aurora areas. Prior to its landfall, local authorities in Isabela have implemented a forced evacuation among residents in several towns, especially in low-lying areas that are facing threats of flooding. Covered by the forced evacuation are the towns of Jones, Echage, Benito, Soliven, and San Mariano, as well as Palanan, Divilacan, Macunacon, Dinapigue, Santo Tomas, Santa Maria, and Cabangan. With more rains expected to be dumped by Typhoon Rosita beginning tonight until tomorrow, the Magat Dam is set to release water before it hits the spilling level. Isabela Governor Faustino D. assures that the provincial disaster team is on alert and is ready to provide the needs of the evacuees.
Naka-in place na yung ating mga kakailanganin, most especially dun sa ating mga coastal towns. Maaga pa lang talaga nagpapadala na kami ng mga pang-preposition ng mga relief goods dyan sa area na yan.
Meanwhile, several villages, particularly Barangay Sabang in Baler, Aurora, are now submerged in floods due to the giant waves from the coastal areas. Local officials have called on residents to voluntarily leave their homes as the whole Baler is placed under red alert status. So far, around 20 families have responded to the call and are now staying in an evacuation center. The local government has also told tourists to refrain from swimming and surfing and find a safe shelter ahead of the storm. Rescue units in Baler, Aurora are also on alert for the coming storm.
Lahat ng level ng paaralan ay walang pasok. So yung ating direktiba ngayong simula ngayon ng madaling araw, papalabas tayo ng direktiba na wala ng mga activity dyan sa may Sabang Beach.
The provincial government of Cagayan has ordered its officials to bring residents in coastal areas to safer grounds due to threats of storm surges brought by Typhoon Rosita. A liquor ban is also in effect in the province to prevent others from getting intoxicated instead of getting to safety. Classes in all levels and work in government and private offices will be suspended starting tomorrow. Cagayan Governor Manuel Mamba says residents in high-risk areas should heed warnings as the province has yet to fully recover from the devastation left by Typhoon Ompong last September. Governor Mamba is also appealing for additional aid from the national government to help residents that will be affected by the typhoon.
Well, kakapusin talaga pero hanggang doon lang tayo, hanggang hindi nila pinapasa. Kaya ako yung nakikiusap na makita nila ito at ipasa nila ito para kahit paano ay matutugunan natin if and when they declare a state of calamity dito sa ating probinsya.
The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, as well as its regional counterparts in Ilocos, Cagayan, Central Luzon, and Cordillera regions are now on red alert status in preparation for Typhoon Rosita. The NDRRMC has also activated its response cluster and is closely monitoring the local government units' responses and measures to prevent a repetition of a severe damage left by Typhoon Ompong.
We wanted to make sure yung status of evacuation centers, talaga hong nakatutok kami ngayon, especially in the 4 regional offices. And just this morning, a memo was issued by USEC-HALAD to actually disseminate, including the MGB list of barangays to be affected. Yesterday, there were 4,198. So ang guidance ni USEC-HALAD dun sa memo is to cascade it to the LGUs, make sure that these are monitored, these are informed for possible evacuations, and we are monitoring for compliance.
The typhoon, which is expected to make landfall tomorrow morning, was last spotted east-northeast of Casiguran, Aurora. It packs maximum sustained winds of 150 kilometers per hour with gustiness of up to 185 kilometers per hour. Signal number 3 is raised over Isabela, Quirino, Northern Aurora, Nueva Vizcaya, and Ifugao, while signal number 2 has been hoisted over Cagayan, Ilocos Norte, several provinces in the Cordillera region, as well as Pampanga, Bulacan, Tarlac, Nueva Ecija, and Northern Luzon. Signal number 1 has been raised over Quezon, Southern Quezon, Rizal, Batanes, Metro Manila, Laguna, Batangas, Bataan, Cavite, and Camarines Norte. Typhoon Rosita is expected to exit landmass on Wednesday. And in other news, the military's takeover in the Bureau of Customs is just temporary. Malacañang says this will only be until President Rodrigo Duterte is satisfied with the transformation of the agency and no illegal drugs and contraband will be smuggled. On Sunday, Duterte placed all personnel of the Bureau of Customs under floating status. He also orders them to report to him in his office in Malacañang. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo ensures the operations in the BOC will not be affected as there will be smooth transition between the military and BOC.
Until it is necessary, until the president is satisfied that everything is in order at that bureau. There is no palusot na nangyari earlier, then that means okay ang patakbo nila.
Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara also defended Duterte's decision, saying the president has the power or control over these agencies to ensure that all laws are observed and enforced. Guevara, however, assures that civilian rule will be held supreme at all times. And beginning next week, the Japanese company Sumitomo will handle the maintenance and rehabilitation works of the MRT Line 3. Sumitomo is the original maintenance provider during the initial operation of MRT Line 3. Once Sumitomo finally takes over, it will conduct an overhauling of the trains to repair the damages. Meanwhile, one set of dalian trains will be added to the daily operation of the current 18 sets of trains of MRT3 after it passed technical tests conducted last Saturday. The Transportation Department, however, clarifies that the dalian trains will only run during off-peak hours and weekdays and weekends. The rest of the 45 coaches are still undergoing technical assessment and tests.
Okay naman. Kaya yun yung talagang natin, objective natin at makita natin yung kanyang performance.
And for the news abroad, here's Pauline Ompico live from Tokyo, Japan. Pauline, good evening.
Good evening, William. Indonesian officials are now trying to find the black box of an aircraft believed to have sunk after crashing into the sea of the island of Java on Monday. The Lion Air flight JT610 with 189 people on board crashed shortly after takeoff from the capital on its way to the country's tin mining hub. A spokesman for Indonesia's Search and Rescue Agency has confirmed the crash occurred after the plane lost contact 13 minutes after takeoff, adding that a tugboat leaving the capital's port had seen the craft falling. In a flight path reconstructed by air tracking service Flight Radar 24 using satellite data, the Lion Air flight took off around 6:20 a.m. and was due to have landed in Pangkal Pinang at 7:20 a.m. The Search and Rescue Agency adds that debris thought to be from the plane, including aircraft seats, were found near an offshore refining facility in the Java Sea, where the plane lost contact with air traffic officials on the ground. Thousands of supporters cheered and set off fireworks in celebrations of Jair Bolsonaro's presidential victory. However, some Brazilians are concerned that Bolsonaro will trample on human rights and curtail civil liberties. Let's find out why from Leslie Longboen.
Brazilians came out on the streets of Rio de Janeiro on Sunday to celebrate far-right Jair Bolsonaro's victory in a hotly contested presidential election. With 94% of ballots counted, Bolsonaro had 56% of the votes in the runoff election against left-wing hopeful Fernando Haddad of the Workers' Party, who had 44% according to the Electoral Authority, TSE.
Em face desses números, o candidato Jair Messias Bolsonaro...
On the basis of these figures, candidate Jair Messias Bolsonaro is statistically elected to the post of the President of the Federal Republic of Brazil because the votes that remain are not enough for this to be changed.
Posições sejam alteradas.
In his first public comments after a landslide victory, Bolsonaro vowed to respect democratic principles. The Workers' Party candidate Fernando Haddad has already conceded to Bolsonaro's victory. The former army captain's rise has been propelled by rejection of the leftist PT that ran Brazil for 13 of the last 15 years and was ousted 2 years ago in the midst of a deep recession and political graft scandal. Thousands of Bolsonaro supporters cheered and set off fireworks outside his home in Rio de Janeiro's Barra de Tijuca beachfront neighborhood as his victory was announced. In Brazil's commercial capital of Sao Paulo, Bolsonaro's win was greeted with fireworks and the honking of car horns.
Hopefully he reforms public security. I hope he carries out necessary economic reforms and ends the system that we had in place before and which hasn't been good.
However, many Brazilians are concerned that Bolsonaro, an admirer of Brazil's 1964 to 1985 military dictatorship and a defender of its use of torture on leftist opponents, will trample on human rights, curtail civil liberties, and muzzle freedom of speech.
I am mourning not for me but for Brazil, which doesn't deserve this. It doesn't deserve this ignorance. The Brazilian people are ignorant. Brazil owes a lot to Lula.
Protesters came out on the streets of Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro to speak out against Bolsonaro's victory. Riot police launched tear gas on Sao Paulo to quell protesters. The former army captain with close ties to the military has alarmed many with pledges to sweep political opponents off the map and comments denigrating women, gays, and racial minorities. Leslie Lumboan, UNTV News and Rescue.
Hundreds of people have gathered at a memorial service in the U.S. following a mass murder at Pittsburgh synagogue. Meanwhile, a U.S. special representative in North Korea goes to Seoul to meet with South Korean officials. Here's why from Stephanie C.
In the U.S., some 2,500 people gathered on Sunday at a memorial service for the 11 Jewish slain in their Pittsburgh synagogue during Sabbath prayers. The mayor called the mass murder as the city's darkest hour, while exhorting mourners to defeat hate with love. The victims were attending a service in the Tree of Life Temple in the city's heavily Jewish Squirrel Hill neighborhood Saturday when the gunman burst in. 11 mostly elderly victims were killed, while 6 people, including 4 police officers, were wounded before the suspect was arrested. 2 of the surviving victims remained hospitalized in critical condition. The suspect, Robert Bowers, 46, who has a history of posting anti-Semitic messages online, has been charged under federal hate crime statutes and could face death penalty if convicted. The mass shooting sparked security alerts at houses of worship around the country and condemnation from politicians and religious leaders. In Palestine, 3 Palestinian boys were killed in Israeli strike on the Gaza Strip frontier on Sunday. The Gaza Health Ministry said 2 of the dead were aged 13 and 1 aged 14. The Israeli military said in a statement that Israeli aircraft struck 3 terrorists adjacent to the fence who were trying to sabotage it and were apparently planting a bomb. Gaza medics have tallied more than 216 Palestinians killed by Israeli forces at the frontier during almost 7 months of Palestinian protests against Israel's blockade of the territory and in support of a right for Palestinian refugees to return to lands in Israel. 1 Israeli soldier has been killed by a sniper. Israel says its lethal response is necessary to prevent armed infiltrations from Gaza. And in South Korea, U.S. Special Representative for North Korea meets with South Korean officials in Seoul for a 3-day discussion on diplomatic efforts to achieve final and fully verified denuclearization of North Korea. U.S. Special Representative Steve Biegun says he looks forward to working-level negotiations with North Korea as soon as possible during a meeting with his South Korean counterpart Lee Do-hoon.
We have a shared goal here, which is to bring an end to 70 years of war and hostility on the Korean Peninsula And the primary requirement for us to get to that endpoint is to achieve the final and fully verified denuclearization of Korea, of North Korea. And so I am absolutely confident that this is within reach.
Stephanie C., UNTV News and Rescue.
Those are the news from the other parts of the globe. Back to you, William.
Thank you very much, Pauline Ompiko from Tokyo, Japan. A large transport drone built by a Chinese firm completes a round-trip test flight. Its developers believe the plane is a pioneer and an explorer towards commercial-use drones. Robbie De Guzman tells us why.
The unmanned large transport drone AT-200 completed a round trip loaded with cargoes on Friday in northwest China's Shanxi province, marking another step towards the commercial use of unmanned delivery drone. The delivery drone took off from Pucheng County in Shanxi, then flew over the Qinling Mountains after it climbed into a scheduled course. It landed at Danfang County after more than an hour. After a short stop at the Danfang airport for the ground crew to unload cargoes and conduct checks, the drone took off again and landed at Pucheng. Then it taxied into the parking apron automatically. The drone reached as high as 5,100 meters during the trip and flew smoothly during the takeoff, landing and flight. The telemetry ground station received good signals and all facilities worked well, indicating that it fulfilled all tests.
We improved the entire system. After the optimization, the drone completed putting in and out. We were able to make great breakthrough in route design and flight technology through the ferry flying. We installed the navigation management equipment, which allows civil planes and control towers to see our drone at any moment. This lays a good foundation for future flight route operation.
The delivery drone, developed by the Chinese Academy of Sciences and other institutions, finished its maiden flight in October 2017. Right now, the drone is applying for an airworthiness certificate.
The completion of this test flight indicates that the AT-200 delivery drone, from the technological aspect, has finished major technological work. Later on, there will be work on airworthiness and verification.
Ma says the plane is a pioneer and an explorer, believing that the drone is more meaningful in terms of promoting the formation of rules and regulations on air traffic control and drone operation in China, including the introduction of some national standards. Robbie De Guzman, UNTV News and Rescue.
And those are the reasons behind the news October 29, 2018. On behalf of Rheena, Villamor-Camara, and Angelo Castro III, I am William Thio. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Good evening.